And welcome back to 42 and 42. I just finished the last non-HD season. Thank goodness. It's nostalgia worthy at the beginning, like 1 through 7. After 7, it's just like, all right, let's get to the HD, please. And thankfully, we've reached that point. I'm joined today by John Buckley, making his first appearance since Borneo 15 days ago. John, I know this is your season. So before we go into my everything, what makes Survivor Micronesia your favorite season besides Natalie Bolton?
Well, I mean, that's a big point. No, this was just like when I was growing up. Like, I mean, there were 2 seasons I remember like distinctly when I was growing up that really just like stuck on me. The first one was Palau because of, and like that's when I really started to pay attention to Survivor. But Micronesia was the that bitch season growing up. Like the Aussie Blindside was, I mean, there's a lot of people that I know that are like in like the Survivor, like the online Survivor community that weren't watching Survivor as it aired. And when the Aussie, that episode aired, I think the world broke. Like my mom to this day still has a vendetta against Parvati.
Wow.
For taking out odds. I had many a conversation of how stupid that is, considering
She's
how
one of those
things. Listen, okay. She also agrees that Ozzy the last couple times was kind of, and you'll get to that through some of these. But it's just like it's so rewatchable. It's so entertaining. I can sit down and just find an episode and I'm gonna be hooked to it. And then there's like for me, and I know there's like peaks and valleys to it. It's also a season where it slows down, but then it like gets you when you're not expecting it, and then it goes. And even the slower episodes have moments that are so fucking funny. So like it's so good. I don't know. And I know there's people that don't agree. Like they think it's like they think it's overrated or whatever. But like it does things that you can't get in a modern season.
Yeah, I mean, this is my second time watching this season this year. The first time was when we did the deep dive with you and Emily, I think probably right after 42 ended. I don't know. And this is the second time. And this is one of those seasons that I have been looking forward to since I started with Borneo 2 weeks ago. And I do agree with you that, for me, going into 42, Micronesia is my third ranked season of all time. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like after this is done, it'll either be at 3 or 2. Because it just from the majority of the cast, and we will get to that, to the blind sides, where it's one of the first times where the season is dominated by blind sides, where it's a majority alliance running the show, but people are still getting caught off guard when they're the ones going home because of how they're navigating the game. And I think that's what's so important about this one is, yes, it's basically, a quasi-pagonging, but like, in the best way where none of the people knew they were going home. And I think that's what makes it so exciting this time around is the fact that because it's a surprise every single time, it makes it better because we're programmed at this point to think, okay, well, these people are going to go home. So it'll get exciting. It'll get exciting again around Final 5, Final 6. When in reality, the entire merge, maybe with the exception of James being medevaced, is exciting. Even the James medevac is a blindside in some cases. But I want to talk a lot about this. Will we go an hour? I don't know.
We'll see.
Starting with, I do want to point out, I don't think Micronesia is underrated. I just said it's my third rated season. Having said that, this season once again runs into the problem that a lot of the teens seasons run into, where the pre-merge cast, not the best. I still think this pre-merge cast is better than most of the teens. But Chet's funny to laugh at. Which is mean. We've got the legend that is Mary. Exactly. We have all these people, and yes, in a lesser season, it could drag it down. But I think that all the pre-merge characters, no matter how insignificant, play their roles well. Mary going home sets off this whole Mikey B versus Truck mini rivalry that we have. On the other, on the favorite side, we have Johnny Fairplay asking to go home. We have this moment where there are two alliances, and Cirie. And one thing this season does really well that I noticed this time is all the foreshadowing that it gives us, where Penner is saying, "Hey, Cirie, if you go with these people, you will be on the bottom." And Cirie's like, "I know that, and I would also be on the bottom if I went with you." It's not. She understands her place, and we'll get to the end in a little bit, but like when they get to final three, she acknowledges once again, "I knew my spot in the alliance the entire time." But even foreshadowing that she says at the beginning, where she says something along the lines of if she screwed up something medical wise or whatever, everyone would laugh at her at work or something. And she screws up the final three challenge and ultimately costs her a win, in my opinion. But even things like Ozzy saying, it would be really hard for them to try to blindside me because I've got my people, blah, blah, blah. It's like, pre-merge thoughts. Do you agree with me that the pre-merge, I won't say lackluster, but some of the casting may be lackluster, or do you think that, these folks are all amazing?
I mean, I can't say anything bad about the pre-merge. Because everybody in their own way has their own iconic level to them. Like, even the people that are barely there, I feel like they have like you remember them still. Like, if you're a fan, like you remember, like, Kathy didn't know who Mary was. Kathy, anything Kathy said, period. Early on, like, she's just so like memorable. Johnny Fairplay getting his face run into a boat by Yall Man, one of the best Survivor moments of all time. Like, there's just, I feel like, because like, and we didn't even mention the best part of the pre-merge, which is Tracy.
Yes, and I do want to actually just focus on Tracy. If you want to just go into a Tracy tangent, please.
Freaking legend! The fact that this woman was not on a sort of like, we got Monica Padilla on second chance the ballot, but not Tracy. Like, are you kidding me?
We got
like,
Kimmy Kaffenberg on the ballot too.
Okay, but it's Kimmy though. I can give
okay.
up.
All right, go ahead.
For Kimmy, but like, Tracy was so receptive, and she played the wheels. She played the wheels off of what she had. It didn't work out for her, but she didn't die off, and just kind of like, she knew where she was, she knew her place, and she used other people's weaknesses against each other, which was phenomenal. And then whenever she didn't need Joel anymore, she just cut him with the rest of them, and it was like,
and honestly, she probably should have. I mean, will it have saved her another round? Maybe, but if she had done what Eric did the next round of throwing Amy under the bus, there's a potential there that maybe if they lose again, Eric goes and she goes to the merge. But that's a lot of fantasy booking there. But I do feel like Tracy, one of the most underrated pre-merge players ever, and especially on this season where there are a lot of great characters and players, but you could put her on either camp of great character and great player. Her, what ultimately dooms her, and I texted you this while it happened, was Chet, basically giving up. I appreciate the humor that Chet brought to the season, but I do feel like he deeply, deeply screwed over Tracy more than anyone else.
Chet should have never made it as far as he did. And I think that was like part of it for me when I rewatch it. It's like how, even every time I'm like, how did they not get rid of him? How is he still there?
Credit to everyone else and Chet.
Was it Jason that, like, I forget what tribe it was?
Get off this island.
Please leave the island.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, one of the reasons that, he looks so young here, Jason. One of the reasons that Jason is basically on the bottom the rest of the game is because he is always on the wrong side of Chet. People are looking at him as not he wasn't working with the large majority of the fans. So when the fans are making their alliances with everyone else, Jason's off to the side because he never had that because everyone else was working against him and Eric was able to find his homeboy Ozzy. So Jason, is screwed. He gets Eliza, but at that point, they're the exact same person where they are absolutely going to be the first two people picked off at the merge. And I love Eliza. So, this is not me saying Eliza and Jason are the same player because they're not. But I did find myself enjoying Jason more this time because I don't think he did anything wrong until he did. And I think the only thing he did wrong was believing the women the second time after you just saw they screwed over Ozzy before.
Jason Siska is an icon. He's a legend. He has no idea what he was doing the entire time. But it was so good. And the thing with him and Eliza is polar opposite people, but they were in the same position.
Yes.
On their tries. And they just happened to come together and then just watching them together.
Their 2 episode story arc.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
And, I guess we can just get this out of the way now. It's a fucking stick. Top maybe 3 moments in the history of the entire show. It's such an iconic thing because it's one of those things where I'm glad that they edited it out for some reason. I don't really want to hear Eliza say it's a fucking stick because I like hearing it the way that it's portrayed. I know it's a weird thing to latch onto, but how I'm always going to remember it is it's a bleeping stick. And I think if you unedit that scene, I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't stick with me as much as it's a bleeping stick did. But go ahead.
That whole edit of that scene is so good because they just show her being like, "This is a fucking napkin," and then they do the beach zoom in of her storming across the beach. And everyone's like, "What? What are you trying to pull? What are you doing?"
Well, and you know what? Credit to him for finding the idol almost immediately. The idol, but he found the idol twice. One was real, one was not. But it's not like everyone else was finding idols out there. Literally, only Amanda and Ozzy did. So it's not like I think 4 other people went to exile. 4 or 5 other people went to exile, and no one else found anything. So credit where credit is due. Jason did find something one time and found an actual idol the second time. Now, where Jason screwed up is, like I said, he allowed like everyone else this season, allowed these women to manipulate him, and he got. But I don't think he's as annoying as everyone was making him out to be. And I do think that he didn't know what was going on, but I do think that he was a better player than people were giving him credit for. Yeah. No. Okay. All right.
I went to go talk. My brain said no.
I'm literally this episode will absolutely be me talking all over the place. So apologies in advance, people. I want to touch on Parvati for a second because I just did Cook Islands 3 days ago, and that's one of those notorious seasons where there was a lot of recruits. And this time watching Cook Islands, the one thing that stood out to me was at Final Four, Ozzy, Becky, and Sundra sat there saying, well, I wonder what happens in a tie. And it's like, you already know what happens in a tie if you watch the show. Well, this season, Parvati has a few moments where it's like, yeah, you've definitely never watched the show before besides maybe your season. One was the Survivor Trivia Challenge, which she just totally shit the bed for. To the point where she's whispering to Cirie, win this because I don't know anything. But 2, at Final 3, after Amanda wins and Amanda's, putting on pout face, Parvati says something along the lines of, and I don't even think that me and Cirie are going to be able to get to vote tonight. And Amanda's like, yeah, I'm the one that votes in this situation. But when you watch these seasons as much as I do, you pick up on these new things, and that was something I picked up on this time, was the fact that it became very apparent that Parvati had not seen a lot of this show beforehand. If she, not doing well on a trivia challenge, okay, some people just suck at trivia, but not knowing that at Final Three, you don't get to vote unless you won immunity. Issues.
Well, if she started watching with her season, she would have never seen a Final Two season. So, like, I mean, like, I get that. But like, I mean, I think I give her more credit. The fact that she girl bosses as hard as she does with zero survivor knowledge, I think is what makes her so scary.
Yes, I agree. That wasn't, and that's not me attacking Parvati the player, because
I know.
It's similar to Earl and Fiji, where it's like, this dude doesn't know the game, but he's able to dominate the game and sweep in the final. It's one of those things where it's like, it makes it more impressive at the fact that they are doing all these things without, one, knowing the show, and two, probably like, I feel like you have a strategy no matter what going in, but if you don't have anything to work off of, like other things that you've seen, you're just going based off of, this is what probably got me casted, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it to perfection. And she did this time around. And even rewatching Cook Islands, you see a lot of this season's Parvati coming out. It's just the I-24 was too close, and I'm happy that it went down the way that it did in that season. But Parvati was able to really she became the legend, I feel like, in this season. Unfortunately, as a Cirie person, I do feel like, one, if Cirie gets to the end, she probably wins. But two, Amanda didn't have pout face and all that jazz. Amanda probably wins. And then the Legend of Parvati, I feel like, still exists, but it's not to the level that people hold it to now. Thoughts?
I think the thing about Micronesia that is so, like, tricky is I feel like this season literally could have justified any of the three of them winning. Like, anything could have justified any of them winning. And I always wanted to see what would have happened if it was a Final Three. Because I feel like Cirie would win, but, like, I feel like it would be a very contested final tribal. And it would be very, like, heated, like girls come up her throats. Like, it would be fantastic.
I don't think Cirie, and I agree with you, but I think of those three, I feel like Cirie wouldn't get attacked at that final tribal. Like, I feel like, she wouldn't get attacked.
What probably would have happened would have been Amanda figuring out that she doesn't have a shot, and Parvati trying to scour for a fact. So probably Parvati would try to, like, undermine Cirie, which would then cause Cirie to be like, nope,
we're not doing this.
Ain't gonna do that. And like that's what would make it so good, was Cirie would literally, like, fire it back. Granted, I think that certain things in Survivor history would still play out the way they do if that happens. Like, I still think that all three of them are on Heroes versus Villains. I still think that Parvati, actually, I think Parvati probably would have won Heroes versus Villains if she didn't win Micronesia, to be completely honest with you. And it's a full other different conversation. But it's just, I don't know. It's so good. And I wish we could have had a Cirie win, so that knowing future, 2022, I would feel good knowing that Cirie had a Survivor victory.
Yeah,
but
this finale, like, it never fails. Every time I watch this finale, I just have this sense of dread hanging over me, knowing that in just a little while, Amanda's going to put on pout face. She's going to, sit there and cry and vote out Cirie, and all of this is going to happen. And then Cirie's going to have her vote out confessional that just gets me because she apologized to her family and says it's not meant to be. I feel for her so much in that situation, or in that moment. I will say, though, and it's going to Amanda, because I was able to watch China and Micronesia within the span of maybe like 26, 27 hours.
Yeah.
I feel like this was Amanda's better game. Of her 3 seasons, I feel like this was Amanda's best game.
It was.
And I think that what ultimately screwed her were a couple of things. One, she absolutely shit the bed at Final Four again at that tribal council, which is exactly what happened to her in China, where right afterwards she tries to get into a tiff with Todd when they get back. Oh, you called me out. You're trying to make me look bad. This time around, that happened again where they get back to camp, and she's going off of Cirie saying, "Oh, how are you going to say that you're at the bottom? Blah blah blah." And Cirie puts her in her place. Thank goodness. And I feel like that's where the wheels really start to fall off with Amanda. Is I feel like she feels like she's standing up for herself, which she is, but I feel like it comes off as fake.
It comes off as I can say whatever I want about you, but you can't say whatever like you want.
Because I'm Amanda. I'm the one that
I'm Amanda. Yeah. I think it comes from she just it's just definitely in her brain on how she processes things. I mean, I don't want to sit here and like say one way or another is bad, because Survivor is a complete microcosm, and when you're out there with like sand up your ass crack for 38 days, I mean, I'm sure that like I also would probably lose it over a middle-aged mom trying to potentially
like a flight attendant. Yeah. Like Cirie was spot on when she said, "Hey, I know I've always been on the bottom." And Amanda's like, "How are you going to say that?" It's like, because it's true. I mean, like, stop. You don't have to lie about that. You know, it's not. You don't have to lie about it, because we're at Final 3 now, which means that in the end, I was still able to maneuver myself to the middle of this alliance from the bottom.
I think. Well, I also think though in Amanda's head, like they had to have known at that point, had to have an inkling in their brain that it wasn't as easy as just, Natalie going home. The 3 of them are the final 3. They had to have known. Like it was day 37. Like you don't just vote off somebody on day 37 and be like, here at day 38 to relax, and then day 39 will like they had to.
No, they didn't go wrong.
Go wrong's different.
Yeah.
Half the cast dropped over from heat exhaustion, but and Joe was constipated. But a whole different story. But
Mr. Joe
was constipated. But she just like, I think in her brain she was like, well, if Cirie ends up trying to decide who's going to the final 2, like I want her to be like, no, I actually was with you. So yeah. I think she was trying to play mind games with Cirie, which is so stupid.
Yeah,
but
I know I've gone on here a lot over the last year and a half, and everyone knows. I feel like everyone knows my opinions on Amanda, where I think she's a great player. I think she's one of the best, I would say top 20 players to ever play the game. And the fact that she sat back-to-back seasons at the end, all of it is amazing. And one of the only times I've ever agreed with Jeff at a reunion is when he's like, Amanda, like, what's up? Why can't you just do this? And I feel like Parvati even says it right before they're interviewing Mary. No way, you exist. Parvati even says, I'm a more aggressive person. Going in, I'm going to just throw it all out there. And I feel like that's something that Amanda didn't learn from the first time. That's not going to work. That's not going to work on yours. If it didn't work on your season full of newbies, it's absolutely not going to work on the season where most of the jury, most of the jury are returnees. Like, that's not going to work. That's not going to fly this time.
They didn't know. So, like, they shot Micronesia in the middle of.
Well, they knew that, but she knew that she hadn't won because she wouldn't have been on the season.
Okay, that's true. Except Eliza thought. Did you know? If you heard that, like Eliza fully thought Amanda won. Like she read a spoiler saying that Amanda won, and Eliza. That's why Eliza was like, "We need to get rid of Amanda early on," because she was full convinced that Amanda won China. Full convinced. There's a lot of things about Micro that I know.
Yeah, there are the like. I didn't put it in my notes, and it's been talked about enough everywhere. how James and Alexis may have actually gotten hurt. I'm trying to avoid that this time.
Alexis fucking up her ankle for some Gatorade. Come on, girl.
Yeah,
Come on.
Whenever we do a conspiracy theory episode sometime down the line, I'm sure that'll be brought up. But no, it's an episode where Alexis and James are just randomly hurt. It's no big deal.
Or like Candace, if Candace wasn't in med school, then we never would have gotten Parvati on Micro. But
on
Micronesia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Parvati was. They asked Candace first. They asked Candace first.
Bring Candace back.
Candace said no, so they asked Parvati or supposedly. So
thank you, med school. Thank you so much.
So I mean, like, if Micro was All Stars 2, like it was initially supposed to be, it would have been iconic with the supposed names.
So,
but I'm glad it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't, because of Ozzy, and this is what I mean by that. Everyone knows All Stars. Everyone knows that jury. Everyone knows everything that went on, within that game. Enough time had passed where I at least feel like y'all should understand that these friendships that you guys have outside the game do not matter here. And I'm thankful that they added a few fans into the mix to like make these people realize, hey, we're playing a game with 19 strangers, but 19 people. We're not here playing Survivor with our friends, which is what it was the problem All Stars ran into is, we're out here having fun with our friends. Like, it's basically we're just playing Mafia at home, but like on an island. And they learned very quickly, this isn't the case. Fuck friendship. We're going to be backstabbing. And if you fall for it, that's your fault. Ozzy is a prime example of why I'm glad that they didn't, because at his jury speech, and to a lesser extent, James, their jury speeches came off as people that were angry, not that they got played, but that their friendships that existed beforehand, or at least Ozzy's case, their friendships that existed beforehand, him and Parv specifically, got utilized within the game, got manipulated, and he felt like he got played for $1 million. And you're damn right you got played. He basically gave the Lex speech from All Stars, except for Lex wasn't in love with Rob, I don't think. So I'm glad that they mixed the fans in there this time so that we get players that understand what's actually going on. Does that make sense? I know that was a long rant, but
I mean, most of the fans had no fucking clue what was happening. But like,
I have my thoughts on that too, so keep going.
I think that the fans versus favorites twist was a one and done moment. As we find out later, it does not work unless you have the perfect cast. They just had they had the perfect microcosm to make it special. Yes. And if any part of that was changed, if you switch out a favorite, if you switch out a fan, this season could have just been like another Cook Islands.
Yeah, and what I'll say is this, and going back to the fans not really knowing what's going on. I know everyone likes to harp on Caramel, and it's like, were these people actually fans? Watching this time, I'm fairly certain that most of these fans weren't actually fans. Like I can't sit here and believe that these people actually watched the show. Like and that's one thing that a lot of people, it's like a revisionist history where it's like, oh yeah, but the fans on Micronesia. It's like, well, no, not really. Like the fans, they're still a bunch of jabrones for the most part.
They put their fire beside the shoreline. Like that's also one of my favorite scenes when the fire comes up and takes out the fire, and you just hear, I forget who it is, just scream in the background. No, it is the funniest thing to me. I think it was
Mikey B probably was a fan.
Mikey B probably.
See if that got him, but
he truthfully was my least favorite in the whole season. But that's a
least favorite fan.
Yeah, Mikey B was. Yeah.
What about Joel? Joel was my least favorite.
Joel was entertainment. I like Joel because
of the one challenge with Chet.
Because his whole story arc was so entertaining. Mikey B to me was just some horny straight guy that just wanted to get in Mary's pants and then went home. Like he just wasn't that entertaining to me. Joel at least gave me he gave me content. And his hubris was so just like the whole story, the whole thing was just, it was perfect. I hit my head back there. I don't care.
I don't care. Talking about fans, Eric. Now I feel like I enjoyed watching Eric this season. And before we get to that moment, I enjoyed Eric's pre-merge. I enjoyed his infatuation with Ozzy. I enjoyed, even though I'm an Amy fan, I enjoyed the fact that he understood if I just throw her under the bus, that gives me a few more days to find my footing. And it did. Him convincing the rest of his tribe to take out Amy, he gets to the merge and he knows at least he's probably getting 6th, and he ends up getting 5th because he understands that he is a challenge threat. He's more in the alliance than Jason is. He's more in the alliance than Eliza is. He's probably more in the alliance than, as it turns out, than Ozzy and James are, because his old fan tribe were looking out for him when it came to his birthday, which is something that's wild to me that they decided, you know what? It's Eric's birthday. We're not going to vote him out, which shows me. What
was it? Finally 8?
It was, I believe.
Yeah, it was a final 8 because there was no 7 because that's when James evac'd. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like Eric had a great story arc. He also had moments where he was a fool. Basically, every time someone would come to him with a plan, and he would immediately run his mouth to other folks. Prime example, Final 5, that episode, where the episode starts with him talking to Natalie saying, hey, we need to do something or we're both screwed. And then he goes to Parvati and says the exact same thing and gives them both the same promise, when in reality, you shouldn't be talking to Parvati. You need to be making sure that you win the challenge, which there's a high likelihood that you will, and you need to send Natalie's ass to Exile Island. Now, could she potentially screw you like she just screwed Jason? Yes. But I also feel like because Natalie is a smart player, she now realizes that the two of us are the most vulnerable of these 5 because these 3 ain't turning on each other. So Eric instead decides to go tell Parvati. He then sends Parvati to exile and takes Amanda on the reward trip. And it's like he's all over the place. He's setting himself. This episode is so it's edited so well because you're just watching this guy bumble along, and you still think, okay, well, he's not going to give the necklace away though, but they give you signs throughout the episode that yes, he could potentially do this because he's doing everything wrong in this episode leading up to it. And so when they're, the 4 of them are sitting there and Cirie says, why don't you just tell him to give you the necklace? And Natalie sits there for a bit and you cut to it and all of it happens, but you're still sitting there like, okay, yeah, he's done a lot of silly shit this episode, but there is absolutely no way. Every time I watch it, I still have that thought in my head that there's no way he actually does this. No words.
And this is another like thing that I've read about Micro that kills me is that Parvati found the idol on Exile when she went and just left it there because she was like, I don't want the drama. Which is like that's the most Parvati shallow shit I've ever heard in my entire life. That's the most on-brand thing for her.
And all we get in the edit is her just tanning and like, I might go look for the idol. I don't
Literally, know. They just were like, there's bigger fish to fry here than her doing this. Like, it is truly like the most baffling series of events. And even like Natalie's like, who the fuck is gonna fall for this? Who the hell would do that? And then he just is like,
there you go.
There you go. Like,
well, and this will even more. We'll go to Amanda for this. All the more credit to Amanda at this final tribal because she sells it so well. She sells it well there, and she sells it well at Final 6. Like she is putting on a great performance. I don't remember who said she deserves an Academy Award. Oh no, they said that she deserved an Academy Award for crying when she put out Cirie, which okay. But she acted very well in that final 6 and final 5 situation, and everyone played their roles right at that final 5 situation where Cirie is telling everyone, this is how you need to act so that he has no idea what's going on. And it's funny because it might be the way it's edited, but as soon as he gives the necklace away, they're all laughing. And I feel like they had to have edited that after, like while Eric was up voting, because there's no way that he's sitting there watching them laugh, him go vote and, cross, I hope this works. It's like, no, you know what's going on at this point. If it's edited the way that it actually happened, where the 4 of them are sitting there laughing as Eric is sitting there. But the way the camera is, you don't see him in the shot. But that's, this is also one of the earliest seasons, not the earliest, where they do the touchy subjects challenge. I don't know what they call it in this season, but for people from the OR community, touchy subjects. Yeah. And what was fascinating about this version of it was it wasn't a hierarchy thing. Like people were just targeting each other for shits and giggles. There was no, from what we're seeing, there is no rhyme or reason to why people are going after each other. I think it goes Eric first, Parvati, like it's all over the place. And I appreciated that because up to that point, we had been, once again, programmed to know that however this goes is how the perceived boot order is at this moment. Mm-hmm. Bring back touchy subjects. I know that San Juan del Sur screwed it up, but
Missy screws up everything.
Muffin. Yes, Muffin. Amanda sells it. I'm almost done my list. The reason I keep looking at my phone is I'm like deleting stuff as we go along, so that
this is the long. This list, I literally had to scroll my phone.
Back to Amanda. Did she make the right call? In that moment, do you think she made the right call?
Taking Parvati, you mean?
Yes.
She made the right call.
Yes. I agree.
Cirie, my God. Like, she just would have had the damn thing on lock. Like, yeah. I think Amanda definitely had, she had the setup, because Cirie really didn't do anybody wrong. Okay. Cirie had a massive part in the Ozzy thing, but Ozzy and Parvati's personal relation, deal was a lot closer, obviously, because they played cooks together. But she got so much of the heat of that from Ozzy. Because even though really deep down, it was Cirie's plan. Let's be real here. So Cirie would have been able to literally take ownership for all leading up to the majority of the massive blindsides that happened throughout the entire post.
The Alexis one, she can't, but everyone else, she could say that she had a role in it.
And taking Parvati instead, there's emotion there on that jury. There's people like Eliza who just vehemently dislike Parvati. There's you have James, and she has James and Ozzy and potentially I think Eric. Those were her 3 jury votes, right? Those 3 she basically had on lock. And Parvati had for sure Alexis and Natalie.
Yes.
So knowing that that lock ratio of 3-2, she at least had going in a much better shot than she would have with Cirie. And she almost did it. But it's hard for Amanda because she's going up against 2 tour de forces in terms of strategy and ability to sell themselves. So it's the 2 things that the one thing Amanda's not good at is.
Well, and I feel like the way that she gets Eliza and Cirie's vote, keep it knowing that the girls and who else votes for Parvati? The girls. Oh, and Jason. So maybe she gets Jason vote. Whatever. I think the way that she gets Cirie's vote is by answering her question any other type of way than she did, where she's basically she's answering the question, but it does almost come off as insulting to Cirie because of the way she's phrasing it.
Literally.
And the way that she gets Eliza's vote is maybe apologizing. I feel like if she had apologized to Eliza, she may have actually, or put her foot down when Eliza said, "Oh yeah, all this pouting and stuff." I agree with you. I do feel like she made the right decision. I do feel like going in, and this is one of those things where James, I don't know in what order they actually went, but James went towards the end in the edit. And I feel like he's not reading the room when he says to Parvati, "Oh, Amanda's got this wrapped up." It's like, I don't know about that, Jay. Like, I feel like based off of what we've seen so far at this final tribal, I feel like you were absolutely reading this room wrong if you think that Amanda has this wrapped up. Did you not to see Natalie hit on Parvati? But that's a thing that I guess I can briefly touch on, even though I kind of touched on it in China. I understand that Ozzy and James have these large followings. I get it. Mm-hmm. They're attractive men, and they're physical powerhouses. James more pre-merge, but they definitely don't have any type of real strategic game, especially on James's end. And socially, Ozzy's a crybaby when things don't go his way, and James is very easy to just take out in China because he's so unaware at the fact that maybe I should just play at least one of these right now just in case. But even in this season, where he should kind of catch on to the fact that these women are talking a lot more than me and Parvati used to, and Ozzy and Amanda used to. So I understand they have really large followings, and if it's because they're attractive, by all means, love the men. But I don't think they're these all-time great players, especially in James's case, where in actuality, he's never won an individual immunity.
No.
Pre-merge, yes, he does really well on the physical challenges, but it's not like his tribe is the one that always wins challenges in any of the seasons that he's played in. Actually, no, I think this season is his best performing tribe, and that was the Swap tribe. But I don't get the James Ozzy thing. I really don't.
I can't help either. I can't do it. I mean, like, yeah. I don't have anything else to add. That's really it for that one.
Let's see. Where are we at right here? Quickly, everyone keeps saying that Alexis is like going to win. Alexis is my second favorite member of the Black Widow Brigade, so like behind Cirie, obviously.
She has the best hair of the Black Widow.
She's probably my crush from the season besides Eliza, but that's because Jewish American princess. But I I loved Alexis this season. I want the Alexis edit, just like I'm sure you want the Natalie Bolton edit. So release those soon. I don't disagree with that. Blah blah blah. Poor Penner. Yes, poor Penner. Oh shoot, what is her name? I don't want to call her the crazy lady because she's not crazy. Yes. I did feel really bad for her.
She is the one person that, like, okay, I should say the one, but like other than like Jenna Maraska, like she's still like the one person that's pulled herself where I'm literally like, okay, this is what you had to do. Like, she stuck it out there and she knew when her limit was reached, and she knew that it was for her own health and sanctity that she left. And you know what? I think it's commendable. And even like Jeff handles it really well.
Yes, he doesn't call her like, oh, you're quitting, huh?
No, he understands. Like that's actually one of the few times I feel like Jeff is actually humanized.
Yeah,
where he actually
in the earlier seasons.
Honestly, and he just is like a lot more understanding of where she's at in this situation. So like,
yeah, I agree.
I don't know. She has some of my favorite sound bites ever, though. Oh my god.
Oh, the implanting and Chet being gay thing, like,
and the implants.
Yes,
we've seen implants up close before.
So, but you don't want to be a girl or anything, right? It's like, whoa, what is
Come on, 2008. Let's go. Let's do it.
Man's is this? 3 more things. One, Eliza put a curse on James, fight me, at the beginning where they're like messing with her for being sick. And she was like, I hope they all get hurt and get medevac from the game. It's like, yeah, I mean, you were right on James's case. Eliza at Final Tribal, telling it like it is. Parvati, I don't like it. Basically, I don't like you. You do a lot of shady, or not even shady shit, like bitchy shit behind the scenes. And I think that's what ultimately catches Parvati in Heroes versus Villains, is the fact that a lot of them felt slighted by her, not because of how she played the game, but because they felt like she was very mean-spirited in a lot of the things that she did behind the scenes. And I think that's why I feel like Cirie destroys no matter who she's sitting next to. Mm-hmm. Amanda, because Amanda has pout face, but Parvati because people just don't want to, like, they don't want to her to win. They don't like her. James, Eliza are 2 that are absolutely. Amanda probably votes for her. Ozzy doesn't vote for her. And all Cirie has to do is pull in either Eric or Jason, and Eric ate chocolate off the woman's fingers. So I'm assuming that he may have swayed that way.
And that's
that way.
Sort of touching on that about Parvati. That's why I say she would win. She would have won Heroes versus Villains if she had lost, because then she would have thought back and been like, I lost because I was a bitch, basically, while mincing words, and she probably would have
changed that up,
hardwired a little bit, and I think she could have done it. Yeah, but that's a full circle moment right there.
And then the last thing, before I give my rating and all that, this is the first season with Ponderosa videos. For anyone that has never watched any of the Ponderosa videos, you should absolutely watch a few seasons. But here's results. Fans' Favorites is one of my favorite Ponderosa series. Highlights include Ozzy being a mope for most of it, which get over yourself once again. Everyone basically heckling the shit out of Eric when he arrives, which he took it on the fly. He took it like a champ. And this is also one of the only seasons where they show the finalists arrive after the final tribal. And there's a moment where like Amanda and Ozzy go off someplace and like, this is disgusting. I don't like any of these people anymore. So anyone that has never watched the Ponderosa videos, you should absolutely go watch it from here on out, from 16 through 41. There's some good content there. The Gabon one is actually kind of uncomfortable, so you might want to skip over that one. Which leads me into my rating. This will absolutely be getting my highest rating up to date. I think right now I have like 3 tied with 4.5. This is getting 4.75. Micronesia has always been one of my favorite seasons. It's consistently been in my top 5 since it first aired. I think that they got everything right that they had control over. And I feel like, and I don't know if I was texting you about it or somebody else, but this is one of those seasons. This is one of those returnee seasons where you could start someone off with this season and they don't need to watch their previous seasons. I feel like you get enough of these people's storylines in this season where you really don't need to see what they did beforehand. I think with the exception of maybe Amy, Yawman, and Fairplay. But even with Fairplay, the fact that the fans tribe claps after they find out he's gone, I feel like that really establishes, oh, this was that type of person. But Yawman and Amy, I feel like, yeah, maybe you want to watch their seasons, but all these returnees, you get they have their own stories here. And that's something that Heroes versus Villains kind of doesn't have. Unless you watch Samoa Heroes versus Villains, that's the only way you get Russell's story, which but Colby and Jerry, all these other people, you need to know at least one other season they've been on to understand their stories in Heroes versus Villains. And almost every other season.
Courtney Yates.
Courtney Yates. But John, thank you so much. I've been really looking forward to this one. I'm so glad I was able to, I know it's 12:30 in the morning now, but I'm so glad that you were able to come on. I know we didn't do enough Natalie Bolton stuff for your liking, but there will be There will be times in the future. This is the second
I'm
time we
saving
discussed
all
this.
my ammo to take out Josh and the Natalie.
Yes,
Boy.
yeah.
I don't need to sit down here and preach on how she's the best. I can't, like, you know, she's out here flossing bitches with her jugular, and she gonna take you out the next time.
Yes,
Point blank in the period.
I won't go to my Natalie Bolton thing because I do feel like
we'll be here for another hour.
I think in terms of what they did in the alliance, I feel like Cirie and Natalie, I would have them actually at my top as far as what they did. But that's it. We're moving on to Gabon, which I know is like either a meme season for some folks or a good season to other folks. I'm probably in the more of the meme camp. But I am excited to get started with the Gabon. I'll probably just watch the first episode tonight and then watch the rest of the season tomorrow. But thank you all for continuing to tune in. Thank you for continuing to reach out. I know I say this at the end of every one of these, but it's true. And we will see y'all after Survivor Gabon.